Hello, possums. Well, we're coming off a huge 48 hours in the land of the Yeti, have we not? Crazy stuff going forward. So, of course, bad figures for job growth. You could say it's the opposite of job growth. Jobs will only go down from here. But what was the response by El Presidente? To sack the head of the Labour statistics. That's one way to pick your figures up, isn't it? I mean, insane. It is totally, it's like a bad movie. And it's just, there's not enough popcorn to go round, is it, with this stuff? Okay, so on the good news front for him, he has made $57.7 million on his stupid fake crypto, World Liberty Finance. And when Don Jr. was interviewed about that, how should the president make all these millions while he's in the presidency? Like someone should have been asking that 9 years ago. But anyway, so Don Jr. goes, "Oh, it's okay. He's the head of this company, but the money's walled off, and only Eric and I have access." And I thought, would you trust Don Jr. with 50 bucks? I mean, it did amuse me for a moment with all the heaviness going on. So there we go with that one. But in his other illustrious appointments, he's put in charge of counterterrorism, the big counterterrorism operation, I think international. Some spectacularly unqualified person, Jack Kent or someone, what was his name? Um, but Joe Kent. But worse, counterterrorism for Homeland Security, you could argue one of the biggest jobs in the world right now, he's given to a child, Thomas Fugati. He's 22 and he's been mowing lawns, just left school, and now he's head of counterterrorism. These are Banana Republic appointments. In fact, I don't think they're even Banana Republic. Banana Republics work on cronyism, loyalty to the big leader, etc. But they're at least usually grown-ups. Yeah. It is absolutely madness. All right. So let's have a look here. What I want to have a look at first, because there's so many things, it's hard to choose what to actually read on. An 11 judge panel, Court of Appeals, actually made a legal judgment that follows law. I know, I know. It's very hard to come by. And this stupid national emergency that only exists in the Yeti's head has been found to be illegal and not a ground for tariffs. So we're looking at this situation here where he just farts these thought bubbles, because that's where I think his brain actually resides, in his anus, thought bubbles about tariffs. So I want to have a look. Will this mean anything, this Court of Appeals, 11 judges, or will he just ignore it? But look at what else he's done. You can't keep up with the tariffs, of course, and I'm sure that's the idea, flood the zone. But he's now fully upset India. So India is now the most populous country in the world. It's overtaken China in sheer numbers of people. So he's gone and spat in the face, not that I like Modi, but spat in the face of India. I'll just give you a few of these numbers. Brazil, India's 25%, Brazil 50%, Switzerland 39%. How do you arrive at 39% and why Switzerland? Syria, this is my personal favourite, Syria. As if there's any trade of significant size between Syria and the US, They've been slapped with a 41% tariff. So let's have a look here. Now we can say these are illegal tariffs as decided by 11 judges. Will it make any difference? Will it make any difference? I'm going to use my regular One World Tarot and a couple of clarifiers in the form of the Russian deck, the 12 chairs. So let me just get my Russian cards. Look at this. Get a few of the Russian cards here. All right, they're ready. Now, will it make any difference? Howling at the moon. Look, we have got three major arcana out of only four cards. That does say something in itself. Now, he will probably ignore it. However, he can't quite ignore it because of Congress, but we'll get to that in a moment. Howling at the moon, woof, woof. He does this thing in the dead of night. This is the 3 a.m. tweets. And like I said, thought farts. It's not based in anything. As we all know, tariffs are supposed to go through Congress, but the reason they haven't, apart from Congress being amoebas, he's had this fake emergency. Import, export, waiting for the ships to come in and out. The emperor is a fool. It's sort of almost too clear, isn't it? Just we're reduced to children's stories and nursery rhymes. Like we've been saying for 10 years, the emperor has no clothes, but it's also the boy who cried wolf and everything else. We're living and ruled globally by Grimm's fairy tales. What's it? Now, the Russians. I like this in the sense, okay, this is, I think, represents the GOP. They're now caught between a rock and a hard place. They're caught between their virulent MAGA supporters who don't like the fact that every time they breathe out, the prices of everything go up. They're starting to talk to each other. Do we go for the base? Do we keep licking his sandals? What do we do? They know this is a delicate business, right? And it's a trust issue, and they don't trust each other. They're all in it for themselves. The 12 Chairs Tarot is about searching for the buried jewels that are supposed to be in a chair. So this is someone who's ripped the chair apart. So I was hoping sort of for a moment that the Republicans might be thinking we might have to represent our voters, but wrong, just wrong. It's like, how can I grab what's left on my office symbolically? This is the chair in the office. How can I get as much cash out of this and in fact leave? But they're thinking of bailing in a way they weren't before. There is that. There's a little glimmering. Oh, they're evil. Okay, now, until I find my next big one, just a little update. We have, of course, the joy of the Oklahoma school superintendent being caught with the porn on his screen during a meeting and he couldn't turn it off. I did love that. Now, I've got the name Moses Mike from the women from the I've Had It podcast, who I do adore. That's where Moses Mike comes from, a few people were asking. And another one I think we should all adapt. Occupy Democrats called Caroline Levitt the spokesliar for the White House. The spokesliar. Is it not bliss? Okay. In other news, an international watch list has been published. I saw this on the Young Turks, so you can check it out yourselves. But this watchdog group is keeping an eye and identifies which democracies are most at risk immediately now for losing civil rights. And on that list, in the reshuffle, is Turkey, El Salvador, Kenya, and the United States. I mean, this is where the United States is now appearing. But let's have a look here. Oh, in Australia, look, Albo, has fought to introduce this law that young people under 16 can't watch YouTube. Talk about shutting the stable door after the horse has bolted, as if the average 9-year-old couldn't circumvent this. It's symbolic, it's well-intentioned, but naive and hopeless. It just makes me cranky. Okay. All right, now jumping around here, I do want to look at the stock market. It's had a bit of a wobble, but the stock market actually likes a weak dollar short term because it means those who are already wealthy can buy bargains. They don't like it long term because their stuff is worthless. But so let's have a look at the stock market, bearing in mind the stock market is not the economy. The economy is shriveling in front of our eyes, no matter how you cut it. But the stock market is still in happy days mode. It's like the Wolf of Wall Street is still out there. Let's see the stock market going forward. This is an ongoing question, of course. Well, not totally surprised. Oops. Now, with these cards that they're a bit mixed up here, give me a moment. Okay, let's have a look at the Russian cards. Let's have a look at the Russian cards here. I mean, the stock market is its own creature. Oops. Okay, now first, the One World Tarot cards. They are beginning to get a bit worried and they are talking with each other behind the scenes. But see, 2008 is far enough ago. The new young ones on board were only children when the 2008 collapse happened. They still believe in the strength of America and the American dollar. This, I think, is symbolically they believe in justice. Not what they don't want it to apply to them, of course, but I think this is more like the Hierophant energy. They believe in the system and that he won't sack Jerome Powell, for example. But they're more worried. They're more worried than they were 2 weeks ago. They're more worried than they were a month ago. And I'll return to that in just a moment. But here they are. It's still all right. I can still afford the good life. Worries at the door. Knock, knock, knock. This is the mother or the wife saying, don't go out there, don't venture out. This is sort of a hesitation on some of the ways they've been thinking. Oh, far out. We could get frisked too, meaning taken down as an entity. with the authoritarian regime. It's like at the moment, the big players I'm talking about, the Bezoses and the Zuckerbergs and the big AAA players, they all think they'll be all right because even if America goes to hell, they can be the new oligarchs in a newly minted oligarchy. That's how fiendishly selfish they are. So they're not the ones who are worried. Where's the worry card? I think this represents the public who have their 401k in the stock market, and I think middle to large investors are also concerned. It hasn't impacted the tycoons yet. But the thing with this Nine of Swords, guys, see the handmade quilt here. It's a comforter. So it's important not to let this, even if you're in that group, and I know a lot of you are, please don't let it um, erode your actual psyche and well-being. Use the comforter. Now, what does that mean? It might mean, and I'm not giving you financial advice, but you have to rethink the retirement savings, what you're intending to use them for. Is it just living day to day? Were you intending to invest? Were you intending to do X, Y, and Z, or were you intending to move to Baja? So stay alert, swords alert, but know there is a comforter here. And that might take the form, it just occurred to me, as allying, where's my Three of Pentacles, with each other. So I'm just throwing this out there and you can let me know what you think. It could mean that a couple of you are worried by your 401k here and someone else there. You might decide to join financial forces with a good legal agreement and to maybe buy property in shares. That's what we did with this house. Three of us own this house, and you can just get the legal agreement drawn up. What happens, when one person goes into residential care or that one or two of you pass on? I'm assuming we are going to pass on, etc. But you can make a legal document that covers every contingency so the grown-up children can still get their share and it's all clear cut. So have a think laterally, is what I'm saying about all that. Okay, now, um, Ron DeSantis with the alligator Alcatraz, with everything that's going on, what's he doing? He's announcing a Hulk Hogan Day. I mean, it's cartoon material. Okay, so I have another question, which of course is about Ghislaine. Okay, she's been moved. Bear in mind, she was already in a facility that had dorms, not cells. This is obviously the minimum sweetheart deal for Ghislaine in the sense it's some federal corrective facility in Texas that is, according to Midas Touch and so on, the most low key of low security and is only partially fenced. That's how low key it is. Now, that does not make sense to me, not from a moral position, but from a safety position. I would have thought that would make Ghislaine more vulnerable, low-key place to attack, or more likely to escape. Okay, partially fence. What does that even mean? So I'm intrigued, aren't you? Or are you really sick of it? Or both? Okay, so this new facility, ultra low key, meaning she'll have access to more visitors. It has all sorts of implications. It's a women only facility. The one she's in is mixed. Women only facility. Orange is the new black. So I really don't know. Let's have a look. So what's our question? Is she more at risk or are they planning to sort of bust her out? Okay, my question is, what is the intention of this low-key environment? What is the intention of this low-key environment? What is the intention? What is the intention? All right, let's check it out. They don't know. Now, let's catch up with where we are in the sense that, yeah, what about that statement he made, the Yeti I'm talking about, basically saying the reason he fell out with Epstein was he stole his underage girls. I mean, what? Why wasn't that the end of his presidency that day after everything else? But no, nothing seems to penetrate, and the legal system is simply too compromised and too slow. So there was that. Now, but I think even he knows a pardon is a bridge too far at the moment. But there's confusion in the White House. Well, there would be because there's confusion in the White House about absolutely everything. Okay. But this represents a victory of sorts for Ghislaine. So Congress don't want her to testify, basically. They la 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 la. They really don't want to know who's on the list. However, they've been pushed by the MAGAs to say, and even Moses Mike has said she should have a life sentence, you know. So he's said it now. Okay. So, so in other words, things weren't going that well for Ghislaine earlier in the week. Now this is a victory for her. Now, I get an escape sort of vibe here with the chariot. This is the White House defending this. They haven't even, it hasn't even turned up in the sort of cycle of news and may be suppressed or something, but they're going to defend this position. Suddenly they get all pro-legal, don't they? Oh, well, that's for the DOJ to decide. Sayonara, Pam Bondi, after this is done, right? Okay, so that's them defending her. The strength, I think this is the strength of her position because no one knows more about this in the entire world than Ghislaine herself. So she has got the trump card, so to speak. Right, she has got a strong position here. Not as strong as she thought. She thought it'd be more of a wave through, but not. So I'm going to pull some clarifiers. You know, remember in the old movies where people used to escape in the wagon with things thrown over them? And it's like, I'm getting the being busted out card. Just let me look here. Okay. Oh, I just heard 6 months. Let's see. Okay, is she going to be busted out? Is she going to be busted out? Don't forget, it could still go the other way. Like the boyfriend. All right. Okay. This is the story as I see it now, and it'll go on the YouTube record for what it's worth. I think she'll feign an injury or a sickness. the moon under the cover of night, lies and deception about an injury. She's got access to enough money to fund this. I think she's going to fund it herself. And I think it's a case of watch this space. Yeah. Oh my God. So, all right, now before I go, I just want to say, it might seem strange to be talking about potash, but Canada is redirecting its potash, and America needs 3 million tons of potash it would have got from Canada. That is a big deal. And as a farmer's daughter, that is a big deal. So let me pull some cards for you guys. Okay. Dear intrepid viewers, what have we got? Okay. Big breaths, stay calm, stay calm. Okay. Now, take some time out from the news and other things. Make sure you have a way, if you think of the canoe as your own canoe, make sure you have a pathway from the choppy waters to the still waters, being grounded. This is also quite a religious card, right? So this is talking about your spirituality. The crossroads, this turns up a lot for all sorts of readers because, of course, the US and the world is at a crossroads. So it's really important. She's surrounded by water. Now, water in tarot represents the emotions, but also all the luscious, juicy things like our creativity and our imaginations. So I'm encouraging you to have a bit of a rest up, but to come up with a creative project that actually takes your mind off things and joy. So if you used to paint, but you haven't painted for 30 years, if you used to sing, but you haven't sung in a choir for 20 years, look for some creative outlets at the moment. I think that would be really, really beneficial. That's lovely. Now, most of you would be familiar with Mandy Patinkin, who is a famous Jewish actor and singer in the United States. I'm going to put up a clip for you. He's being interviewed along with others about what is happening right now. Australia is having a huge protest tomorrow, a pro-Palestinian protest across Sydney Harbour Bridge. It was touch and go whether they'd get permission. But what has gladdened my heart is I'm hearing more and more from Jewish people I know in Sydney who are intending to march. This is heartening. And in this clip, Mandy talks about how Netanyahu is not in a position to make Israel safe either, and it does have to stop. I think 100 people were killed yesterday trying to get aid. The aid is not getting through. Small, tiny amounts are getting through, but not the huge amount of aid that's been backed up. And I think we all, wherever we are in the world, need to put pressure on that aid getting through. So take care, viewers. And I always love to see what you have to say in the comments. So take care. Blessings. Ciao.